It's finally spring, and I've been out in the garden beds, and I came across this incredibly gorgeous weed. And yes, it's a weed, but it's just really beautiful. And the pollinating bees seem to really love it. So I'm going to leave it in some places in hopes that we can just coexist rather nicely, and we'll see what happens. And this is my low garden bed, and the mint lives here, and this pretty little weed is a member of the mint family, and mint can be very invasive, and I've been pushing it back so that way I can go ahead and begin to plant things in there. And in my garden this year I did a lot of container planting as well, and this is just the start of a lot of the stuff. I actually planted so many things. It'd just be easier to list what I didn't plant than what I did plant this year, but I'm actually looking forward to having a great harvest and to be very busy canning this year. This is going to be a first for me. I'm going to be very new at this, but I think I can be successful if I can find maybe a pressure canner. I can do some hot water bath, but a pressure canner, yeah, that's exactly what I need. This is the start of some of my projects. Now on the left I have a ferment made of cherry and pineapple, and that ferments naturally with ginger and a little bit of honey, raw honey in this case, and it's really, really good. On the right is a switchel, which is a haymaker's punch. And then I got into pickling, and before you know it, I had a jar of pickled celery, and this stuff is really, really good. If you've never tried it, I highly encourage it. And that just led me into pickling garlic, and I've never done that before. It's been in the refrigerator for a couple weeks, and it's turning blue, which is a natural process. And here are my pickled eggs, which I hear are delicious. And in the back there, I've got black cherries that are also pickled. All of these things should last in the refrigerator for quite a few months. So I'm looking to eating these over the summer. So I finally got into the studio and began cleaning, and I just began moving everything. And this corner that you see here, this is like the first time I have seen this corner in a couple of years. It's just been piled with a lot of clutter. So I'm happy to show it to you because it's the cleanest it's been. And since this is an outdoor room, it gets really, really dirty. And in the middle of all this, my husband brings down from the garage attic this, and I kid you not, it was like right on cue. He says, "You're gonna want this," and he throws the box down, and wouldn't you know it, it's an old pressure canner, and it's probably been in the garage for better than 30 years. I mean, this thing is filthy, but it's original. Everything is there, every single piece. It's an original box. It's all the original parts, and it just needs a really good cleaning. So I'm just gonna hike this baby upstairs and get started. So I began by cleaning the lid, and of course I forgot to turn on the camera when I did this, but this is how it came out. I'm really not looking to get this back to its original factory settings, having it nice and shiny and beautiful. I just want it working, and it's, like I said, it's really, really cruddy. There's some corrosion on it, which I think is going to easily be sanded off. It's just a matter of soap, water, and a 400 grit sandpaper that's going to get this really, really clean. And it's just going to take some real elbow work to get in there and get it spotless. And it's worth the time because brand new, these things typically run about $150 to get a good one. And if you get something like an All-American, it can cost you $800. And since I'm not really sure how far I'm going to go with the whole canning thing, I just don't want to spend the money. So we'll clean this baby up and probably give it a new gasket. We might have to give it a new pressure gauge, but it's worth the time and effort, I think. And we're just going to scrub this baby down and see how it goes. So after much elbow grease, I managed to get this thing pretty clean, and she looks a little worn, but I think she's ready to work. We are going to look at the gasket and make sure she holds pressure. I did talk to my mother-in-law about this, and apparently she got this as a giveaway from an aunt in roughly about 1965, and she never used it. It went up into the garage attic, and it has been sitting there ever since. So yeah, do the math. It's been up there a long time. And if you look it up, this thing was originally built in the 1940s, so she's old, but I think she's going to do a good job. And after all the busy work over this last weekend, I thought it would be a good idea to just sit down for 5 minutes and catch up with an old girlfriend. So look what we found in the backyard, sleeping soundly on the other side of the fence. 10 years I spent in the country and I would have never seen anything like this. And I moved to the suburbs and here you go. And he's as cute as a Dickens, I might add. But I think Mama needs to stop coming around and eating the tops off of my bean plants. Yeah, I'm just putting it out there. So I'm back in the studio now and I have managed to get a lot done. There's a whole lot of stuff I cleaned out. I can walk in there now, which is great, but I still think it's a little too cluttered. There's just a lot of projects going on and I need to ferret them out and figure out which ones are priority and which ones can wait and be tucked away. I do now have a place to paint and there's the rest of the old cooker there. And here is a project that I just cannot motivate myself to get it finished. Oh my gosh, this is my kitchen cart. And it's gonna look a lot different than this, but boy, there's just something about trying to paint slats that is just so depressing. So my husband has promised to take this project over. I think I'm gonna kind of push him this weekend to get started. I really do need this upstairs and I can't wait till it's finished and just out of the studio. So I'm here. I'm finally here. After a long winter and the gardening and all the spring cleaning, I'm finally back in the studio. I finally got my desk together. I'm finally doing some practice scribbling in my journal. It's been wonderful. Even though I have to still do this in between all the housework and stuff, it's still so worth it. I just feel so free now. The studio is nice and cool. It's nice and clean. My head is on straight. I can get to work now. And just by the way, these aqua colors, I showed these in January. I have to say they're pretty awesome. I should probably do a review video on this. And these are my watercolors. I just bought these after many, many years of not having them. And then my oil pastels, which is a medium I really want to work on because I love it. So this is the biggest journal I have, and I started playing in this a couple of weeks ago. And again, I'm happy with some of the things I see. Although this one on this page, I'm really stoked about this. I just think it's really cool. It came out really, really neat. And I'm thinking about translating this onto a big canvas, and it's going to be one of the gallery canvases, and then it'll go up for sale. So stay tuned. I think it's going to be a fun piece. It may be a little challenging, but I'm, again, very excited. So this is a piece I was working on last summer, and I've been trying to make it like a painting I did in 2015 called Of Movement and Metaphor. And it's one of my favorite pieces that I've done, and so I wanted to do another edition of it. And this one's only about halfway finished, and every single painting I have ever done about halfway goes through this stage that I call the ugly duckling stage. It's just embarrassing, and it's really hard for me to show you this because I just think it's very discombobulated and just not working in so many places. There's some really bright spots on it, but everything else just looks to me, it's like, wow, you really need to work on that. So this is what I'm doing. This is going to be a piece I'm doing this year. I'm really excited to see this one finally come to completion. And finally, we come to one of my favorite pastimes, which is thrift store shopping. And who doesn't love a good thrift store? And one of the things I always look for are frames. And I'm looking for really good wood frames that I can paint and update. And I really liked this one, but it's really big. And I want to be doing some small landscapes. So these sizes here, they are much better for what I have envisioned for the landscapes moving forward. Unfortunately, most of them today were plastic, and I don't really want to work with plastic. Occasionally I find wood plastic composite, but most of the time I just want to work with wood frames. And so I pick them up as soon as I find them, and then I spend the time to clean them and then update them for the pieces that I plan to do in the future. And here is a really good example of one of those frames that I found. And this thing, it looks like it's solid wood. It's got a beautiful edge on it, but it needed a really good cleaning. And when it dried very dull. It just kind of lost a lot of its beauty. So I did repaint this, and obviously I took out the contents of whatever was in the middle, saved the glass, and then what's going to happen is when the new piece goes in, I'll just simply have it professionally assembled and it'll look fantastic. This is just a really good way of just finding really good gems out there that would otherwise be overlooked by anybody, and they provide really beautiful framework for the landscapes going forward. And here's a couple of these frames now finished and ready to go, and I'm very much looking forward to the artwork I'm going to do in framing these, and I'll be happy to show them to you when I'm done. Stay tuned. And last but not least was the spring clean out of the video studio, and this is upstairs in our living room, and that's some of the artwork hanging on the walls. And that table was actually a thrift store find for, yeah, $20. It's a great table too. And so I cleaned off everything. I bought another Mac to do all the video editing. So now I've got two running with a pretty good microphone and two iPads. I also bought some studio lights. So I've got big studio lights and small studio lights and a couple of cameras, and this is a thing now. So it's a lot of stuff. It's a lot of management of stuff, which is the worst part of having anything, is having to manage it and keep it clean and organized. In the near future, what's going to happen is we're going to do a lot of changing around of the room upstairs. We're going to be bringing in a wardrobe for the winter stuff, the coats, the shoes, the hats, and all that, so I can finally clean out the hallway and make that more useful. And since the video equipment cannot stay outside in the art studio, it has to be up here. So we've got a plan moving forward, and we're probably going to show you how it's all done, but I don't know if that's going to happen this summer. I bought these studio lights a few months ago, and they are really cheap. I think I paid about $35 for them. And they feel like you bought them at the dollar store, but surprisingly, they work out really well. So if you're looking for something that is a starter pack, I really recommend them. You can find them on Amazon. They are fantastic. I would buy another set if I ever need them. And that's the complete tour of the video editing area. Not all that exciting, but it's been really useful. And going forward, I've got this great thrift store haul. I'm really into pottery, and I just found some really great stuff. So I think we're going to do a new video on this. Stay tuned, because there's actually quite a few things I picked up, and they're just a lot of fun, especially this mug. Oh, this mug. Oh, we're going to talk about this mug. And that's all for me today. I'm just looking forward to the summer and all the things that are going to happen. So I'll see you again next time, and thanks for watching. Bye.